Welcome to Candid Conversation number 115. I'm going to talk about the technology today and about economic systems. About a week or two ago, I heard about the Chinese government, and they're communists, and so they're big government, and they have the technology now where they have these cameras all over China, and if you do anything to break the law, they got the technology. They know you're walking down the street and they can see who you are, what your height is, your weight, your age, your name. They know everything about you just by seeing you walking down the street. And then if you commit a crime, such as if you jaywalk across the street, they can, since they have all the information on you, the cameras pick it up and sends you a ticket in the mail. And then they also try to shame you by putting your information on some big screens that they have all over the city there to show that so-and-so just jaywalked, to make you feel bad, I guess, and make you look like, oh yeah, he's a criminal. And you'd expect that from well, I should say, when I was growing up, there was the Cold War, and about how we were against communism. And the funny thing is, though, when you look at, and certainly, you can see the evil side of man, I think, is probably, went under fall with fallen man. Probably the communist setup of government is probably the worst, just because because the power is in the hands of just a few, and they have the power over everybody. It's not a free market system, and so it's easier for there to be corruption in a communist government under the fall of man. But the thing is, what's funny, or sad, however you want to say it, is that today in America, we have the capitalist society. And I realize it's become more socialist and communist over the years, and there isn't that outcry against communism now as it was back then, because you don't really see the dictators like a Stalin or a Lenin or Castro so much. But what's interesting is that even in this capitalistic society, the same thing has taken place, except we're so stupid that we pay for it. In the communist government, the government controls all the money, so then they set up the technology to set up these cameras and to see you walking across the street and give you the ticket for jaywalking. Well, here, we pay for it. Pretty much everybody pays $100 a month for one of these smartphones, and it's got these apps in there that track them. There's a Movie Pass thing that they just admitted a few months ago, where they got like 3 million subscribers to this Movie Pass thing, and they admitted that of course there's a location tracker in there, and they can track where you are, and they just want to not only have the movies experience, but also pick out restaurants and other things for you. And so that here you are being tracked by Big Brother, and you pay $100 a month to be tracked by them with this phone. That's the funny part of it. It's scary at the same time, is that when I was growing up, they're complaining about the Cold War and communism, and now we have the same things going on in the communist society and the capitalist society as the communist society. But with the capitalist society, because it's a free market, we pay for it. Really, the difference is it's more or less, in communism, there is this mind control, there's this, the government's in control, and so then they filter everything that comes out. Well, the capitalist society we're in today in America has become a lot like that, where they just filter. They have this mind control stuff going on. So yeah, they don't force you to do stuff. You're not forced to buy a smartphone and pay $100 a month. but they put all that stuff on TV and media and news and internet and all this that tell you that you have to have this stuff, and people can't go an hour without their smartphone. Amazon just the other day said that they've come out with smart houses. They got this Alexa, and which is Amazon's got their Echo. I think it's Amazon. I don't know, or maybe it's Google that has Alexa. I forget which is which, but basically it's a little device that goes into your home where you tell it what you want, and it gives you the answer or does something for you. But it's been found out it records your conversation. So the funny thing is people used to say, oh yeah, Big Brother is watching us and we don't want to have that. And so they're against communism and the dictatorship. Well, now in a capitalist society, the same thing is happening, except people are paying for it. The Echo or the Alexa was the hot thing for last Christmas, or maybe the Christmas before, I don't know. I don't keep track of that stuff. But so in a capitalist society, same thing's going on. It's just now we're paying for it. So you pay $100 a month for your smartphone so they can track where you are, what you do, and they have all this information on you. And then record your phone conversations, and then they put these little devices in your house, except you pay $50 or $100 or $200 for these devices. They go in your house that supposedly help you, but again, they're recording your conversations and recording everything you do, and you're paying for it. That's the funny part, is that the things that America was against when I was growing up in these other societies, now they've welcomed them with open arms because of the mind control that tells you got to have this stuff. Amazon also has a thing where you can pay something like $200 to get this device, and it will, to make sure your packages are delivered correctly, it will, when they come, they're able to open up the door for you and put your package inside your house and then lock it back up. You just paid for someone, a stranger, making very little money to come into your house. It's just funny looking at this stuff and thinking about it. When I was in college, I'd study in the library because it was so quiet there, and there were no windows. Well, because it was built in the 50s or in the 60s, the danger of the Cold War, they didn't put any windows up there in those top stories of the library. Because the Cold War dangers, and now we've just welcomed it with open arms in our society. Now you may think, what does all this have to do with Scripture? Well, the thing is, it's everything, because what it shows is that man, his heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked, and so it doesn't really matter what economic system you have, man, his evil is shown in that. There are some, more checks and balances in that capitalist society, but once you get away from strong morals, and that's the thing, people look at the systems and they say, well, crime is up or this is up, and we don't understand why. They try to spend all this money on this research to figure out why more people are using drugs and there's more crime, and then they come up with these psychological factors to explain it, and then they spend all this money on psychology to try to help people so that they don't get involved in addictions and crimes and all that, and they ignore the problem. The problem in any society, regardless of the economy you're in, is sin. That's the issue. And when we take prayer out of schools, we take the Bible out of schools, then the laws become more evil. We're killing babies. Millions of babies have been killed since Roe versus Wade. The evilness of everything that's going on, it becomes worse and worse, and it's just because society has gotten away from God. I understand that before they didn't have, it doesn't mean that everybody who went to church was saved before, but it used to be part of the American culture that everybody went to church on Sunday, whether you believed or not. And I understand if you don't believe, it doesn't help your soul one bit to go to church. In fact, it makes it worse. But the functioning of society is better when you have people who at least have a conscience, who have the morals put within them, and they at least try to obey that to a certain extent. It helps keep crime, it has down, it keeps the functioning of society is better. But what we're seeing now is all this technology, to the point that even in a capitalistic society, because of there's no God in schools, there's no prayer in schools, people aren't going to church. The people who do go to church, they're just taught New Age philosophy. They don't really hear any sound doctrine from God's Word. And everything is relative truth, and it's all about me, do what makes me feel good. That's what these smartphones are about too, taking selfies and loving me, and everything's about me, because I can take a picture of me here, and I got to post on Twitter that I had dinner with so-and-so the other night, and look how important I am. And then I got all my friends on Facebook. Look at how many people love me. And I know everybody doesn't do it for that reason, but the technology and what they're doing, it encourages that type of thing. And so what ends up happening then is the society, it doesn't matter if it's capitalistic or communist or whatever it is, the society just keeps getting worse and worse, not because of the economic system we're in, but because people aren't recognizing God. They're not recognizing the truth of God's Word. They don't have a conscience that they go by. It's just, I do whatever makes me feel good. And so then the society goes down. And all this is really preparing for the Antichrist, that he'll have a one world government, because if I don't care anymore that people are watching me or listening to my conversations or recording them through this Amazon Echo or Google Alexa or whichever ones it is, and the smartphones and all that, well, then I won't mind having a dictator. And he then puts, actually what it does in society today, it's ripe for an Antichrist to come, because all of us know within ourselves, according to Romans 1, that there is a God. We know of His eternal power and Godhead. God has made that known unto us. And now if we get to the point where we are our own gods, well, then there's still that within us to know that there is a God, and you have to go against that within you. And so when the Antichrist comes up and says there is a God, and by the way, I'm him, and I'm worshiping the God of forces, well, Star Wars, that goes, may the force be with you, that goes right along with Star Wars. And just very easy for the Antichrist to slip in there, throw some theology behind it, because everybody's lost their moral fiber, and so now it eases their guilty conscience a little bit, and then they can continue to do their wickedness, because the Antichrist will use bad doctrine to get people to as justification for their evil deeds. It's just like Catholicism. Antichrist is going to have the mystery Babylonian religious system. And today the Babylonian religious system is seen as in Catholicism, where someone can get drunk on a Saturday night and then go to church on Sunday morning and pray the rosaries or the Hail Marys or whatever they do, and so then they're okay. So it justifies their bad behavior. They have the bad behavior, they have a guilty conscience, they go do what their religion says, and then they're okay. So it's the same thing with the Antichrist, except it's amplified. The problem there is they're going to be killing believers at the time. So what it does is it does what Isaiah says, that woe unto them to call evil good and good evil. It takes, in John 16:2, it says that the people who will be killing the little flock of Israel in the tribulation period, by turning them in to be killed, they'll think that they're doing God's service. They think that they're serving God by doing this. And so they can continue to do, that's what's so bad about religion, is that if you do your evil deeds and there's just no moral compass or anything behind it, well then you eventually feel bad about it, because you have that inward idea that God has put within you about His eternal power and Godhead. And so you just have to ignore that and continue to do your evil deeds. But if you have a religion that is made where you can continue to do your evil deeds in the religion, but then you do whatever the religion says, And then what that does then is it eases your guilty conscience. So you take your guilty conscience, it's turned into having a seared conscience with a hot iron by having this false doctrine put in you. And then that stuff satisfies your flesh as well, because it killing people, the lust behind that, bloodlust. So that satisfies your flesh, lust of the flesh, by killing people. They're the bad guys, I'm the good guys now. Well, you're the good guy and doing all this sexual perversion and promiscuity and all this evil and wickedness that you do, but you don't feel guilty about it anymore because you're doing God's service by killing the little flock of Israel. And so that religion of the Antichrist is just going to be the ultimate defiance or rebellion against God, by taking all that evil stuff. Right now, like the church I grew up in, a Pentecostal church, they felt good with their legalism. But their legalism was good stuff. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't curse, don't steal, stuff like that. And so you would have the satisfying of the flesh by my voluntary humility, as Colossians 2 talks about, so that I feel good. My flesh is satisfied by doing good deeds. But the thing is, that's your flesh really wants to work all uncleanness with greediness, as the book of Ephesians says. And so if I can satisfy my conscience and my flesh at the same time by doing evil deeds continuously, remember Jesus says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And Genesis 6 says, in the days of Noah, the thought of man's heart was only evil continually. And so if I can take a religion that will make me feel good if I follow it, and everything about that religion is evil, then I can do evil continually, and then my flesh is completely satisfied, and I can just keep doing it, and then my conscience is satisfied as well, so I don't feel guilty about what I'm doing. So whereas the church I grew up in, my flesh was satisfied by not drinking or smoking or cursing or all this stuff, under the Antichrist, the flesh is satisfied by killing people, by doing all sorts of evil and bad things, and then feeling good about it, because the Antichrist is saying, well, this is what we're supposed to do to honor our God, the God of forces. And so that's how evil continues on. So it's that religion of evil that's set up with that, and it's all really going toward that with this technology that's happening today. It's, I think this is the Antichrist and the rapture. I think the rapture is going to be happening within my lifetime. I could be wrong, could be 5,000 years from now, I don't know. It just seems like everything is being set up for the Antichrist to come on the scene and start this using technology, because then you can watch people when he says he can control the world economic system, and people don't mind giving that over to them because it's all about me and me being satisfied. So as long as he's handing out the dough, I don't care. As long as I'm taken care of, I don't care. I don't have any morals. I don't care what happens. And then my guilty conscience is satisfied by his Babylonian religious system, and it is the continuation of evil, which more people are going to sign up for an evil religion than a good religion, because it goes along with the flesh better. You don't have to have the satisfying of the flesh by doing good things, but you can have the satisfying of the flesh by doing evil things through this religion. And so everybody's be willing to sign up for that. And then the technology is there for him to institute the mark of the beast, and anyone who doesn't take it is going to be can't buy or sell, participate in that economic system. If you don't worship the beast, the image of the beast, then you are killed. Again, people don't care about that stuff as long as they've got they're doing good financially and economically. And so because the morals have been taken away. And so, we saw that with Bill Clinton being president. The economy was doing great, and then you find out that he cheated on his wife. Any president, but before that, 100 years before that, he'd have been immediately removed from office because the president's supposed to have a good moral standard. And yet, Clinton continued on. I know he was impeached, but I believe it was for different reasons than his affairs. And people didn't care. His approval rating didn't go down any, because they said, as long as I'm doing good, it's all about me, then I don't care. So if there's no morality anymore, then we don't care about the evil deeds that our leaders do, and we don't care about the evilness being in religion. In fact, we like it, because then we can feel good about doing evil, and they can just do evil continually. And then the technology is set up to where the Antichrist those people who are Bible believers and believe the gospel of the kingdom and are saved, the Antichrist can have those people arrested and killed, because he's got the technology now to see your every move, and people have paid for it. And they won't want to do with that. That's another thing, they get so dependent on these smartphones and all this technology that you can't even take it away from them for an hour. So then if the choice is you got to abandon this, and you could lose your life by not bowing down to the image of the beast, Jesus says to flee to the mountains. You're in Judea there where the Antichrist is. You're going to be killed if you don't bow down to the image of the beast. So he says, once that abomination to desolation is set up, flee to the mountains. Get out of the city, because the control of the Antichrist, just like it is today, is in the city. In China, they got that thing where they can give you a ticket and shame you if you jaywalk. I'm pretty sure they don't have that in the countryside. They don't have cameras set up in the acres and acres of farmland out there. It's in the cities. But fewer and fewer people want to live out in the country, because they've been brainwashed to think that they need all this technology. And so then when it comes down to it, and it says flee to the mountains, well, they're going to recognize, I'm going to have to give up my technology. I'm going to have to give up everything that I hold dear, because I don't hold God dear anymore, because I have no morals. All I have is a stupid, guilty conscience, and the Antichrist alleviates that through his religion that he has propagated. So why would I leave all of that? I just care about me, 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 and the Antichrist is going to give me food and shelter, and I'll be prosperous, and I don't have to do all the things I don't want to do, like work and make a living. God said, told Adam, by the sweat of your brow, you're going to till the land. And if the Antichrist just takes care of all my needs, and I don't have to do that, I can see why people will say he is God, because he's taking care of you. They'll take, behold the lilies of the field. They don't spin or toil, and yet your heavenly Father takes care of them. Are ye not much better than they? Are you much better than they? And yes, you are. The Antichrist will take that and twist it and says, I'm taking care of you. Just rely upon me. I'm God. And so then when it comes to the commandment of Jesus to flee to the mountains, we'll just skip those verses. People do that all the time in Christianity today. They only take the verses that they want to listen to, whereas the verses that convict them and show that there in their flesh dwells no good thing, you don't see that stitched on a pillow or on a poster somewhere. And so the verses that warn against the Antichrist in that system, they're just going to be ignored for the verses that make them feel good. And so then they're not going to flee to the mountains. And plus, if they did flee to the mountains, they lose all the economic system, they lose the smartphone and all that. So they don't care. So it's just like with Clinton. They didn't care of his sexual immorality as long as they're doing okay economically. Well, if they were doing bad economically, they'd say, oh yeah, get the guy out. He's an adulterer, but they don't care about that stuff because they only care about the economic system. So it's the same thing with the Antichrist. They don't care that they have to bow down to some image of the beast. Hey, if it appeases my guilty conscience so I can continue to do evil, why not do it? And why would I give up all this great technology, the smartphones and the things that take care of me, the smart houses if they've got them then? If I go out into the mountains, I got to fend for myself. I got to find food. And how am I going to do that? The guns have been taken away from me. I can't kill a deer. I can't, have some meat. I don't know how to grow a garden. Everything's been genetically engineered. And I've been eating chemicals for all my life. I don't know how to do this stuff. So even if I did want to flee to the mountains, I couldn't do it because I wouldn't know how to survive. And so really, all this is setting up, and of course, things can change. I don't know God's timetable. I don't know, if the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. So, who knows? Things could change, and it could be another 5,000 years before the rapture. But that's the way I see it. It's all setting up. It's for the rapture coming within my lifetime. Just because of that, you just see the policy of evil gets worse and worse. You see the technology for the Antichrist to really control the world. And then the only way to get out of that, out of the Antichrist all-seeing eye, basically, that third eye, that's part of Satan's religion, is going to the mountains. And how are you going to fend for yourself? You don't know how to keep yourself warm. You don't know how to make a fire. You don't know how to kill anything or grow anything. How are you going to survive? And so people will just, because they're so considered about their flesh and they have no morality, they will just continue in the Antichrist system. And then they'll feel good about everything they're doing. They'll feel like they're doing God's service because the Antichrist, as the religious expert, has told them that they are serving God by bowing down to the image of the beast, by having people who go against it be arrested. That's part of religion, is that I am good and this other person who isn't part of my religion is bad. And so if he'll finger those, point out the ones who are believing God and His Word, and they'll be the bad people, and then the people who are serving the Antichrist will be the good people. And so I mentioned all that. It just seems like it's setting up. I could be wrong, but it's just, to me, it's just setting up for the rapture and the time of the Antichrist. Just the technology and the morality to everything that's going on. And I certainly hope that's the case, because I'm tired of living in this sinful world. And I'll be glad to be home, to be absent from here, and to be present with the Lord for all eternity. What a blessing that will be. Thanks for watching.